You set aside 3 hours for deep work, but 90 minutes later, you've only managed to clear a few emails, cycle through a dozen browser tabs, and reorganize your desktop. This fragmentation is not a lack of willpower. It is a predictable biological response to a digital environment designed to hijack your neural architecture. We are going to solve this by building a precise blueprint to activate flow state. Flow state is a measurable neurological condition where your brain operates at its highest possible performance mode. Our goal is to engineer a 90-minute flow block that triggers this state on demand. This system requires 3 immediate steps: selecting a correctly difficult task, establishing total environmental control, and physically removing your phone. When these conditions are met, peak productivity becomes a repeatable biological outcome. We begin with the purge. You must create what researchers call cognitive scaffolding, a structured environment that supports focus so you don't have to rely on self-control. Close every browser tab irrelevant to your task, silence all non-essential notifications, and move your smartphone to a different room. This chart identifies the hidden core focus killers. While obvious distractions are at the top, the most damaging drains are deeper. Look at digital dopamine loops. Devices exploit your reward system with dopamine hits. Your brain craves these interruptions, making sustained deep work feel boring. Next is the primer. You must replace vague intentions with a hyper-specific, measurable goal. Instead of saying you will work on a project, commit to a clear deliverable, such as wireframe 3 web pages. To trigger flow, the task must be roughly 4% greater than your current skill level. This sweet spot demands your full attention, without being so hard that it creates anxiety. Stretching just beyond your comfort zone forces your brain to release the chemicals needed for deep focus. This flow activation blueprint shows how these factors work together. When you combine a precise psychological target with environmental controls, like using noise-canceling headphones, you create the exact conditions for peak performance. This preparation is the deliberate construction of a zero-friction zone. By removing obstacles beforehand, you ensure that entering a state of peak performance becomes your brain's path of least resistance. Once your 90-minute timer starts, you will likely encounter immediate internal resistance. You may feel confused, frustrated, or a sudden urge to check your messages. This is the mandatory struggle phase. This is a necessary biological period where the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for conscious thinking, loads the raw materials and information needed for breakthrough moments. In this 4-stage flow cycle, every peak state begins with friction. The mental effort here is like loading rocket fuel. The transition between struggle and release is where most quit. Reaching for your phone now resets the cycle. You must push through the discomfort. To trigger the pivot, use the MacGyver Method. Once you are fully cognitively loaded and frustrated, step away from your desk for 2 to 5 minutes. Engage in screen-free movement, like walking or stretching, to let your subconscious take over. When you return to the desk, the prefrontal cortex quiets down, a state called transient hypofrontality. Your inner critic goes silent, and you experience the effortless pull of the flow state itself. You cannot force focus through sheer willpower. Flow is a biological surrender that occurs only if you endure struggle and execute the release. When your 90-minute block concludes, the work is done. However, your brain's processing is not yet finished. You must now enter a mandatory 15-minute recovery phase. You need to downregulate your nervous system, meaning you must transition from a state of high physiological arousal back to a restful, calm state. This final stage, recovery and integration, is a physiological requirement to consolidate skills from your work block. Here, learning sets in your neural pathways. Effective recovery requires deep breathing or stretching. Avoid fake recovery, like social media. Screen use prevents your nervous system from resetting. Jumping straight into digital distraction doesn't just rest the brain poorly, it actively disrupts the neural pathways you just built. A tech-free recovery period is the only way to permanently solidify your cognitive gains. By following this protocol, you have utilized the neurochemistry that McKinsey research indicates can increase productivity by 500%. This level of efficiency means 90 minutes of deep flow can effectively match the high-quality output of an average 8-hour workday. The next step is turning this into daily architecture. building your schedule around these protected periods of deep work. Look at tomorrow's calendar and block out your next session, ideally between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. This allows you to leverage your natural cortisol peaks, the times when the hormone that regulates your alertness is highest. When you neutralize focus killers and respect your brain's biological cycles, you stop merely managing your schedule and start intentionally directing your professional trajectory.